March 12th, 10:46 a.m. She landed in LAX with a carry-on bag, a heart full of hope and a text that read, "I can't wait to finally hold you." By the next sunrise, she was dead. The reason? Not money, not jealousy. She found out the body he promised wasn't his to begin with, and when she reacted, he didn't explain. He murdered her. Maya Collins, 29 years old, marketing coordinator from Atlanta, dead in a Santa Monica apartment bathtub with her skull caved in. The man she flew across the country to meet, he'd been lying about everything, including what was between his legs. Maya wasn't stupid. After her last relationship imploded, caught her boyfriend cheating through someone else's Instagram story, she'd built walls, high ones. When she downloaded that dating app in January, she approached it like a job interview process. Background checks, reverse image searches, video calls before even considering a coffee date. Maya Collins worked as a marketing coordinator for a mid-sized insurance company in Atlanta. She'd graduated from Georgia State with honors, lived in a cute one-bedroom apartment in Virginia Highland, had a solid group of friends and a close relationship with her family. Her Instagram was full of brunch photos, hiking trips to North Georgia, and pictures with her rescue dog, Buster. She was the kind of person who remembered your birthday, brought homemade cookies to office parties, and always offered to be the designated driver. But relationships? That's where Maya struggled. Her dating history was a string of disappointments. Guys who love-bombed her for 2 weeks then disappeared. Men who seemed perfect until they revealed they were married. The type who'd spend 3 months texting constantly, then ghost her the moment she brought up making things official. Matthew had been different, or so she thought. 2 years together, talks about moving in together, meeting each other's families. Maya had started looking at engagement rings online, dropping hints about her dream wedding venue. Then she found out through a mutual friend's Instagram story that Matthew had been sleeping with their co-worker Jessica for 6 months. 6 months. While Maya was planning their future, he was destroying it. That breakup nearly broke her. She took 2 weeks off work, cried through an entire season of Love Island, and seriously considered adopting 3 more dogs just to have something that wouldn't betray her. But Trevor Langston knew how to play the game. He called himself Dante Reeves, had professional headshots, not selfies, actual photographer-quality images. A verified Instagram with 2 years of posts showing him at tech conferences, expensive restaurants, weekend trips to Napa Valley. His LinkedIn showed he worked for a cutting-edge startup in Santa Monica, developing apps for sustainable living. The apartment he showed her during their FaceTime calls? Spotless, expensive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. Trevor had studied Maya before he ever sent that first message. He knew she worked in marketing, so he peppered their conversations with industry terms. Knew she loved hiking, so he posted photos from Malibu Creek State Park. Knew she was close with her family, so he always asked about her sister Jasmine and her parents back in Savannah. For 2 months he courted her like it was 1950. Flowers delivered to her office every Friday. Her co-workers were jealous. Paid for her Uber Eats when she worked late, always ordering from her favorite Thai place. 3-hour phone calls that stretched past midnight, where he'd listen to her vent about difficult clients or office drama. Maya's guard started dropping. Her friend Keisha later told police, Maya said he was different, said he actually listened when she talked, asked about her day, remembered details about her family. She was scared to believe it was real. But it was all a performance. Trevor had spent weeks crafting the perfect boyfriend persona. He'd researched Maya's social media, noted what made her laugh, what made her feel heard. He knew exactly which buttons to push because he'd been studying her like a predator studies prey. Here's what Maya didn't know. Trevor had done this before. Police would later discover he'd created at least 4 different online personas over 3 years. Different names, different jobs, same MO. Lure women into long-distance relationships, get them emotionally invested, then bring them to California. But none of those previous attempts had made it past the talking stage. Trevor would panic when women wanted to video chat, make excuses when they suggested meeting in person. He'd ghost them when things got too real, delete the profiles, start over with a new identity. The difference? Maya was the first one who made it past the airport. Trevor Langston had been born Teresa Langston in Las Vegas, Nevada. He'd transitioned 8 years earlier, legally changed his name, underwent surgery, updated all his documentation. Nothing wrong with that. People have the right to live authentically. But Trevor took it further. He didn't just change his present, he erased his past completely. Those sealed juvenile records in Nevada? They told a different story. Battery charges from when he was 16, attacked a classmate who'd made fun of his appearance, identity fraud at 19, used a fake ID to get into clubs, then escalated to using stolen credit cards. A restraining order from an ex-girlfriend who claimed he'd stalked her for months after she broke up with him. The pattern was clear. Trevor couldn't handle rejection, couldn't process conflict. When confronted with uncomfortable truths about himself, he lashed out. After transitioning, Trevor thought he could start fresh. New city, new identity, new life. He moved to California, got a job at a legitimate tech company, rented that expensive apartment. For a while, it worked. He dated a few people locally, had some short-term relationships. Nothing serious, nothing that required deep emotional intimacy. But Trevor craved more. He wanted the fairy tale romance he'd never had. The problem was, the real Trevor, insecure, damaged, carrying years of unresolved trauma, wasn't someone who could sustain that kind of relationship. So he created Dante Reeves instead. Dante was everything Trevor wasn't. Confident, successful, emotionally available. Dante had no baggage, no complicated past, no dark secrets. Dante was perfect. But here's the thing about lies. They're like building a house on quicksand. Eventually everything sinks. By February, Maya was talking about visiting California, just casually at first, mentioning she'd never been to the West Coast, asking about good restaurants in Santa Monica. Trevor deflected, changed the subject, suggested maybe he could visit Atlanta instead. But Maya was persistent. She'd already started researching flights, looking at hotels, planning a long weekend trip. Trevor's anxiety spiked. He started making excuses. Work was busy with a major product launch. His mum back in Nevada was having health issues and he might need to fly home. The apartment building was doing renovations, and the noise would be terrible. Maya bought none of it. She was a marketing professional. She knew when someone was running a campaign of misdirection. More importantly, she'd been burned before by men who made excuses. If Dante was real, if their relationship was real, why wouldn't he want to meet her? The pressure mounted through February into March. Maya's friends were asking to meet this mysterious California boyfriend. Her sister Jasmine was getting suspicious about why Maya never had concrete plans with this guy she was supposedly so crazy about. March 10th, Maya made an executive decision. She booked the flight without telling Trevor. Round-trip tickets to LAX, leaving March 12th, returning March 15th. Then she called him with the news. "Surprise, I'm coming to see you this weekend." Trevor later told his therapist, court-appointed after his arrest, that he felt like the walls were closing in. "I couldn't breathe," he said. "Everything I'd built was about to collapse." March 11th, Trevor sent 17 texts trying to get Maya to postpone. Work emergency, family crisis, food poisoning, each excuse more desperate than the last. But Maya was done with excuses. She'd already requested time off work, bought new clothes for the trip, told everyone she was finally going to meet her Prince Charming. March 12th, Maya was wheels up to LAX. And Trevor? He was pacing his apartment, trying to figure out how to maintain the lie for an entire weekend. Before we get to what happened in that apartment, I need you to understand something. This story gets dark, really dark. If you're interested in more cases like this, the ones that show how dangerous online deception can be, make sure you're subscribed. We cover cases the mainstream media won't touch, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Maya texted her sister from LAX. "He's actually cuter in real life. He brought me roses, happy face emoji, heart emoji." She had no idea she was walking into a trap. Trevor picked her up in a black BMW, leased, not owned, though Maya didn't know that. He'd spent the morning cleaning his apartment obsessively, hiding anything that might give away his past. Photo albums went into a locked closet, Prescription bottles with his old name got stuffed in a gym bag. He'd even bought new towels and sheets, afraid somehow the old ones might betray him. The drive from LAX to Santa Monica should have been their first red flag. Trevor was nervous, talking too much, overcompensating. He kept glancing at Maya like he was studying her reactions, trying to gauge whether she suspected anything. But Maya was too excited to notice. She was finally here, finally meeting the man she'd been falling for over FaceTime calls and late-night texts. The apartment was everything he'd promised. Modern, expensive, with those floor-to-ceiling windows and stunning ocean views. Maya took a dozen photos for Instagram, tagged herself in Santa Monica, posted a story with the caption, "Living my best life." Trevor suggested dinner at Nobu Malibu. Expensive, impressive, the kind of place that would distract Maya from asking too many personal questions. They sat on the deck overlooking the Pacific, ordered the omakase, drank sake that cost more than Maya's monthly car payment. To anyone watching, they looked perfect together. Maya laughing at Trevor's jokes, leaning across the table to touch his hand, taking selfies with the sunset behind them. Trevor posted one to his Instagram story, Maya looking radiant, wine glass raised in a toast, caption reading, "Finally got my girl here." But underneath the surface, Trevor was falling apart. Every question Maya asked felt like an interrogation. When she mentioned wanting to see more of LA, maybe drive up to his office tomorrow, Trevor's palms started sweating. When she asked about his family, whether she'd get to meet them someday, he changed the subject so abruptly that Maya noticed. "You okay?" she asked over dessert. "You seem tense." "Just work stuff," Trevor lied. "Big presentation next week." They drove back to the apartment around 10 p.m. Maya called her sister while Trevor was in the kitchen opening a bottle of wine, panning her phone around the living room. "The place is gorgeous," she said, laughing. "I might not come back to Atlanta." She was joking. They both laughed. Jasmine later said it was the happiest she'd heard Maya sound in months. That was the last time anyone saw Maya alive on video. What happened next unfolded over the course of 3 hours. And we know the timeline because Maya documented it in real time, texting her friend Keisha as her perfect weekend turned into a nightmare. Trevor was acting strange, jumpy. He kept going to the bathroom, taking long showers, making excuses about why Maya couldn't use the master bathroom. "The lock's broken," he said. "Use the guest one down the hall." Maya found it weird, but didn't push. Maybe he was just private about his space. Some people were like that. Around 11:30 p.m., Trevor announced he needed another shower. Said the restaurant had been hot, he felt sticky from the ocean air. Maya was lying on the couch scrolling through the photos from dinner when she heard the water start running. That's when she decided to use the master bathroom anyway. She had to pee and the guest bathroom was all the way down the hall. How broken could a lock be? The bathroom door was cracked open, steam was pouring out from the shower, and through the frosted glass, Maya saw something that made her blood run cold. Surgical scars. Unmistakable. Across Trevor's chest, faded but visible, the kind that come from top surgery, from transitioning. Maya wasn't transphobic. She'd dated trans people before, had trans friends, considered herself an ally. But this wasn't about gender identity. This was about lies. About flying across the country to meet someone who'd been deceiving her for months. She backed out of the bathroom quietly, her mind racing. How much else had been a lie? Was his name even really Dante? Did he actually work in tech? Was anything about their relationship real? 11:47 p.m. Something's off. 11:52 p.m. He's acting weird. Won't let me use his bathroom. Maya was texting Keisha, trying to process what she'd seen. Keisha was at a bar in Atlanta 3 hours ahead, probably getting ready to head home. 12:03 a.m. He just came out the shower, and I swear I saw surgical scars. He lied about being born male. 12:05 a.m. I'm freaking out. I feel played. He didn't tell me he was trans. What the hell? That last message went through at 12:05 a.m. on March 13th. Maya's phone went silent after that. Here's what happened next. Pieced together from the crime scene evidence, autopsy reports. and Trevor's own confession during plea negotiations, Maya confronted him. Not about being transgender, that wasn't the issue. About the deception, about building an entire relationship on lies. "Who are you?" she demanded. "What else have you lied about?" Trevor panicked. This was his worst nightmare scenario, the moment he'd been dreading since their first conversation, being found out, being rejected, having his carefully constructed identity collapse in real time. He tried to explain, to justify, to make excuses, said he was protecting himself, said society wasn't ready to accept people like him, said he'd planned to tell her eventually when she loved him enough that it wouldn't matter. But Maya wasn't buying it. She was pissed. "You made me fall in love with someone who doesn't exist," she said. "You stole 2 months of my life." She started packing her suitcase, said she was going to a hotel, flying home first thing in the morning. The relationship was over. Trevor begged her to stay, promised he'd explain everything. But Maya was done. She'd been manipulated before and she wasn't going to let it happen again. That's when Trevor snapped. The medical examiner determined Maya was struck 7 times with a ceramic vase from Trevor's coffee table. The first blow knocked her to the ground. The second fractured her skull. But Trevor didn't stop there. He kept hitting her, even as she tried to crawl toward the door, leaving bloody handprints on the hardwood floor. Maya Collins died at approximately 12:45 a.m. on March 13, 2024, 40 minutes after sending her last text, less than 14 hours after landing in Los Angeles with hope in her heart. Detective Sarah Martinez had seen a lot of domestic violence scenes, but something about Trevor's story didn't add up. Maya's injuries were too severe for an accidental fall. The blood spatter patterns were wrong, and Trevor himself? He was too calm, too prepared with answers. "Most people who find someone dead in their bathroom are traumatized," Martinez later testified. "They're shaking, crying, can barely form sentences. Trevor was giving me a timeline down to the minute." The investigation moved fast. Maya's phone, found in the apartment's trash, still had her last text to Keisha. Trevor's Apple Watch, he'd forgotten it synced his messages, contained that deleted text about being found out. But the nail in the coffin, literally? DNA evidence under Maya's fingernails matched Trevor, blood on his clothes, and security footage from the apartment building showing him carrying cleaning supplies from his car at 4 a.m. Trevor's defense attorney tried to paint it as a crime of passion, said Trevor had been rejected and humiliated, acted in the heat of the moment. They brought in expert witnesses to talk about the psychological trauma of being outed. The prosecution wasn't having it. This wasn't about being transgender, prosecutor Linda Tyler argued. This was about being a liar, a manipulator, a man who built his relationships on deception and turned violent when reality caught up with him. Maya's family sat in that courtroom every day. Her sister Jasmine gave a victim impact statement that brought half the room to tears. Maya would have accepted Trevor for who he was. She'd dated people of all backgrounds, all identities. What she couldn't accept was being lied to, being manipulated, and she died for having boundaries. If this case is making you think about your own online dating experiences, you're not alone. The comments on these videos are filled with people sharing their close calls, their red flags, their stories of deception. Make sure you're subscribed, because we're going to keep covering these cases, the ones that show how dangerous lies can become. Trevor Langston was convicted of second-degree murder, 32 years to life. He'll be eligible for parole when he's 66 years old. But here's what really gets me about this case. It didn't have to happen. Trevor's fear of rejection, his shame about his past, his need to create a perfect facade, none of that justified murder. Maya's reaction wasn't about transphobia. It was about honesty. Think about your own dating life for a second. How many lies do you tell? Little ones, big ones, lies of omission. Most of the time they're harmless. You shave a few years off your age, add a few inches to your height, maybe use photos from before the pandemic weight gain. But when you build an entire relationship on deception, when someone falls in love with a person who doesn't exist, you're not just lying about your height or your job. You're stealing their right to make informed decisions about their own life. Maya Collins died because she demanded honesty. She died because she refused to pretend everything was fine when she realized she'd been manipulated for months. The real tragedy? If Trevor had been upfront from the beginning about his past, his identity, his struggles, Maya might have stayed. Her friends described her as compassionate, understanding, someone who valued authenticity above perfection. Instead, she became another statistic, another woman killed by a man who couldn't handle the word no. Maya's family started a foundation in her name. They advocate for online dating safety, for better verification systems, for awareness about the warning signs of deceptive relationships. They've helped over 200 people recognize and escape similar situations. But Maya Collins will never see 30. She'll never get married, never have kids, never laugh with her sister over Sunday brunch again. All because a man decided his comfort was more important than her life. That's the real crime here, not just the murder, the theft of everything Maya could have been. What do you think? Have you ever been in a situation where someone wasn't who they claimed to be online? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story reminded you to trust your instincts, to dig deeper when something feels off, then maybe Maya's death wasn't completely in vain. Remember, your safety is worth more than someone else's feelings. Always.